Welcome. Today we're going to talk about Darden, and I'm excited to be here to dive deeper into this school. We haven't spent nearly enough time discussing Darden, so we're focusing a lot more on expanding the beyond M7 school categories on our platform. If you're new here, welcome. If you're joining, if you're rejoining, if you're coming back to our videos, welcome back. And I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our LinkedIn channels. We have a lot of insights that we will be sharing with you along the way, and every single week we host a live session. So let's dive right in on today's topic because we have 30 minutes to cover quite a lot of details, and I do want to open the floor to questions as you listen to what I'm sharing with you. If you have questions specific to you, if you have questions about your application, especially if you're still in the application rounds, whether that's submission, interviews, please write your questions in the comments. All right. So as I mentioned, today we're talking about Darden. We are looking at the school in the context of not just ranking, but what are the decision levers that the admission team uses to decide who gets in and who stays out. Darden has a very demanding MBA program, and being smart is the baseline at these schools. So being accomplished is truly baseline. Darden is looking for candidates who can exercise judgment when the data is incomplete, who have the resilience to thrive in environments that push you into decision making from day one, and who will elevate the community around them. Most strong applicants who are rejected, one of those reasons that they're rejected is because they miss this information. Sorry, I just got a private comment. Yes, I'm still on the first slide, so we're still good. I lost track of where I was. So most applicants miss one of these components, even though they are in the, even though they're strong. The ones who get rejected do miss some of these dimensions that we're going to be talking about. They come with impressive stats, solid resumes, but what they fail to do is to demonstrate judgment. They fail to show resilience, or they even fail to prove they are going to contribute to the culture at Darden, assuming that what they're sharing with the admission team is enough depth for the admission team to understand. And that's where the admission team does draw the line. If you can't communicate what you bring to the table, if you can't communicate judgment, resilience, that's not the kind of candidate that they are looking for. So it is your job as an applicant to make sure that this is the information that you're including. So over the next 30 minutes, I'll discuss Darden, what Darden is assessing. I'll show you how to think about each of the three essays, and I'll point out common traps that strong candidates fall into. I'll share case studies in some of the clients that we have worked with. Hopefully by the end of this process, you are going to be able to take this information and apply it to your application to Darden. So let's dive right in. Let's first talk about the admission landscape. Every year, thousands of applicants, high achievers, apply to Darden. People with strong GPAs, strong GMAT, GRE scores, blue chip firms on their resume. That's not really that special, unfortunately, at top 20 schools. That's what they're seeing day in and day out. The admission committee is not simply ranking your resume. And we can have an entire conversation. And actually, if you are thinking about the MBA resume, we do have a YouTube channel where we have past videos that we discussed the resume. So the resume, the MBA resume is different than a job resume. So make sure you don't submit a job resume to any of these schools. But Darden, as well as other schools, are not just looking at, oh, can we see this resume and be able to extrapolate what we're looking for? You have to be crystal clear. And the context of your entire application, what they're looking for is, does this person have judgment? And this is going to come through a lot of the pieces. It's not a one place where you put this information. It's the essence of who you're presenting to the admission team. So do you show resilience? Can you bounce back from setbacks and thrive in a pressure cooker, which is what the environment is going to be like at Darden? Will they elevate others? Will they make the study group sound stronger when cases are being prepared? It is your job to communicate your value add, as well as communicate what you're going to bring, what you're going to take, as well as what you're going to give. So that's the hidden selection, not so hidden, but people forget selection metrics. And it explains why you see some really strong candidates with perfect stats get denied, while others with average or even below average test scores still earn admission and scholarship at the likes of Darden, because they took the time to develop and dive deeper into who they are and what they bring to the table. So it's not about being the best on paper. It's really about showing who Darden is looking for, that you will succeed in their case method, which is the only school in the top 20 programs that is one of the only two schools in the top 20 business school category that has 100% case method pedagogy. You need to show that you can participate in a very collaborative community and represent the school as a leader of consequence. That's the real bar that Darden holds. The evaluation lens comes from three things. First, the case method. Every single class at Darden forces you to decide and make decisions, essentially, with incomplete data. You don't sit back passively. You are going to be making calls, defend those calls, and challenge others. The admission committee is asking, in evaluating your candidacy, will this person be able to think and contribute in this kind of environment that we have here at Darden? Second is the community. Darden is among few very close-knit MBA or few schools that has a very close-knit MBA program culture. They admit people who can be trusted collaborators, people you really want to be on your corner, in your team, and people you'd rely on under pressure and when things are going awry. They are filtering for candidates who don't just take, right? They don't just take insights, take lessons, take network and all of this, but you are going to also contribute. You're going to be a multiplier of values for others as well. Third, leadership. At Darden, leadership obviously isn't measured by title, because you guys are most of you are going with 4 to 5 years of work experience, but it's measured by resilience, influence, and clarity of purpose. They want people who've already demonstrated they can move others forward, even without that formal authority that one anticipates a leader should have, right? So when you look at your essay, when you look at your resume, when you guide your recommenders, your interview preparation, they all need to reinforce these three dimensions. So decision-making, contribution, and resilience, in order for you to be a competitive candidate to Darden. Let's dive into the essays. So the first essay asks you what do you want your classmates to know about you that isn't on your resume? Do that in 200 words, essentially. So what they're looking for is not a recycling of your professional highlights, which are already on your resume. They also don't want you to dive into something that's too light, like a hobby or a fun fact, without real weight. This essay is also not about your quirks. It's about dimension. Darden wants to see how your personal experience, passion, and values shape who you are and how that will influence the perspective you bring to the classroom and community at Darden. When the admission committee reads this essay, they're asking, will this person enrich the discussion? Will they bring a point of view that is not common in the class that you are participating? Will they show up authentically? Strong answers create both connection and credibility. They make you human, they make you relatable, and they make you also memorable. But they also reveal your leadership DNA. The experiences and values that explain how you think and how you lead comes out in these kinds of essays. So it's not about proving that you are extremely impressive or thinking that because you don't have some kind of impressive experience to share, you have nothing to share. But it's about proving that you are someone your classmate would want to learn from, debate with, build trust with over the next 2 years, and hopefully beyond that, because the MBA, it's a lifetime connection with your peers, so lifetime leverage as you go through the process. And you obviously want to have strong connections and build a network that is strong and reliable beyond the 2 years you're there. The second essay is the community prompt. Describe an example of building community, its impact, and how you'll bring that instinct to Darden. This is where the admission team separates passive joiners from active builders. Weak answers sound like attendance. So what do I mean by that? You joined the club, you volunteered at an event. It shows really participation, which is fine, but doesn't show leadership. Strong answers show initiative. Maybe you started a mentoring program at work. Maybe you launched an affinity group. Maybe you created collaboration across silos. The key is showing action and consequence, how others were better because of your involvement and investment in that community. That's what this essay requires. The second layer is forward-looking. Darden wants you to connect that instinct to how you'll engage at Darden. Will you contribute to student government? Will you strengthen the academic clubs? Will you drive inclusion in the broader community? They want to see how the past will connect with the future. So this essay is also helping you prove that you are a multiplier, someone who expands the ecosystems that you have been a part of, not just a consumer, but also someone who is adding value to others. And that's really an element that for Darden is non-negotiable. The third essay is about career with purpose. In 200 words, you have to explain your short-term post-MBA goals and how they align with your long-term vision. On the surface, this is a goals essay, but in reality, it tests your ambitions, your feasibility, your understanding of the goals' feasibility, and the alignment of your goals with the greater application. Darden wants to see that your short-term plan is sharp, so this means, and also essentially precise. So industry, function, geography, and even maybe company size, they want to see that there. They're not looking for these vague aspirations. I will explore, consulting, impact investing, just sort of using keywords that we hear so often. That's going to make you come across as someone who is repeatable. They see so many of those kinds of applicants in their roster of applications that have submitted. What they also want to see is feasibility. Does your background support this pivot? Does your story make the leap credible? An ambitious goal that doesn't connect with your past reads unrealistic. And if it reads unrealistic, they will automatically assume that you are not ready for an MBA. And then the long-term vision. This isn't about prestige. It isn't about being so lofty that it's going to make you sound like you are the next, Apple CEO. But it's about purpose. Darden wants candidates who see their career as a platform for creating value, not just for themselves, but for the organizations, the industries, and society as a whole. The strongest answers align ambition with feasibility and purpose. And that's what we teach here at Sia Admissions and guide applicants through that process. What this does is make the admission team, the admission committee reviewing your application say, this person knows where they're headed. And Darden is the right accelerant because it gives them, the candidate, you, a lot of the resources you need in order to make this pivot and this move. Some of the misses of the strong applicants that I see is submitting contribution essays, for example, that read like copy-paste of the website with club lists and nothing original, right? You're just taking what's on the website, putting it in there, or reshuffling words, and it's quite two-dimensional. The admission team is going to see that a mile away, so please take the time to be introspective. The other thing that applicants do that it's a miss is draft uber ambitious career goals that sound impressive but don't add up with their background. That creates a credibility gap, and the Darden Admission Committee does work very closely with the career services to make sure that your goals are feasible and attainable. So make sure that you stress test your goals before you submit. And the third thing is they show up to interviews overly rehearsed, delivering polished but shallow answer, can't answer anything that goes off script. And the admission team is going to interpret that as failure in the case method itself and the case method test, because you will be unscripted when you are debating, and they have to see how you do that before you show up to campus, before they say yes. So if you can't think clearly, and you can't communicate clearly in a real conversation, the question is always going to be, how are you going to survive the 200 to 300 cases that you're going to go through over the time period there? These are definitely avoidable mistakes, but they are where most strong applicants collapse if they don't take the time to really introspect in this process. And that's why having the right strategy really makes a huge difference. So let's show you what this looks like in practice with the real cases of clients that we've supported in their Darden application. So first, we worked with an investment banker. He had average grades, below average test scores, nothing extraordinary in his resume that another investment banker wouldn't have. So it was quite vanilla. But what he did have, and we discovered in the process of our conversation, is resilience. He grew up in a farm, broke into investment banking space without a recruiting pipeline. He created really his own path in getting there. So we reframed his story around resilience. He also had regional ties to Darden, and really a determination to make this move. And because of these regional ties, that he also wanted to go back to the region. Darden was his top choice, and not only was he admitted, but he also earned or was awarded a $16,000 scholarship on top of that. Second, a consultant. She worked in human capital transformation, but her GPA was average and her GRE was way below average. We positioned her work as directly enhancing Darden's case methodology or case method pedagogy. We showed how she could bring unique insights on technology, people, and organizations to the classroom. And that framing made her a clear value add. She was admitted to Darden and 4 other schools on top of that. The through line here is knowing that none of these applicants were perfect, as we assume some are. What they did bring is clarity, resilience, contribution to their application and communicated that effectively. That made Darden reward them with offers and scholarship. What we do here at Sia, we're actually quite purposeful in how we approach working with candidates. So our framework, we have multiple pillars, but the 3 core ones is clarifying trajectory. We make sure that your goals are precise, they're credible, and ambitious at the same time, so that the admission team really feels confident in your ability to get there. 2, we help candidates elevate their narratives. We draw out, in the case of Darden, resilience, judgment, leadership DNA to make sure that you're not overlooked in your application. So we'll keep probing and pushing you until we are able to get that insight out of you so that you can then present it in your own application. And 3, we help you align with Darden's ethos. We position you as inseparable from the school's case-driven, collaborative, leadership-oriented culture, that you belong there. You have to communicate that throughout, and it's not by saying, I belong here because I match these things. It's about weaving those characteristics into the entirety of your application. And that's why that's why we have really strong success rates in context of helping applicants gain admission to at least one of their target schools. Not because they are perfect candidates, but because these are candidates who were not afraid to put in the work and took our advice and applied it into their own application. That led them to admissions, and oftentimes multiple admission to some of the top schools they're applying to. Darden is definitely a competitive top 20 business school, and they don't admit, as you've seen here, based on stats alone. They admit based on clarity and judgment and contribution. So if you know that those are the levers that they're pulling to evaluate your candidacy when you submit your application, you know that you need to position yourself for that in order to get in, to get the ROI. So every single week we have a YouTube live session, different topic, but those can also be those are made available free of charge on our YouTube channel. So you can go there, search for how to write a resume, how to write an essay, how to guide recommenders, school-specific content. So we have a lot of resources that we actually get a lot of emails from our viewers who say that even though we didn't work with you, we've leveraged the insights you gave us to be able to have success in the schools that they apply to. You can also book a one-on-one consultation to discuss fit in the context of working one-on-one in your application from beginning to end, or through our hourly service. We are quite selective in the people we work with, not because we want to be selective, but because we do have a very rigorous process that's not for everyone. And we want to make sure that the individuals we work with, they really understand the rigor of the work that we'll have them go through, and that they're individuals who are going to be applying those insights into their own application to get the highest reward. So you won't see, a buy now sticker anywhere. The consultation serves as a two-way street to really evaluate if we are a good match for each other. But you can also join the MBA strategy circle, especially if you combine it with our YouTube content for those who want to DIY their application, and join our MBA strategy circle that we host every other week, a live Q&A session. It's always on a Tuesday. It's either hosted at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time or 8 p.m. Eastern time, where you can join and bring any question that you have in the context of your application. Anything from how do I select my stories, develop my goals, choose schools, write essays, resume, how do I guide my recommenders, am I submitting the right things, how do I prepare for interviews. You can join this community and ask questions and also learn from other people's questions as well. All right, so now you know those details. Let's dive into the questions and see what you guys have for me. So if you have a question, write it in the comments of whichever platform you're joining from, and I will try to answer it in the next 3 minutes. But we'll start with the questions that have come through the registration for this event. So how do I represent these traits Darden seeks to find most effectively as an entrepreneur? I think, okay, so essentially, how do I represent these traits in my application because I want to be an entrepreneur, especially when I plan to start to immediately found a startup post-MBA? My first question to you would be essentially, are you someone who already has an entrepreneurial background? If you don't, then your post-MBA goal, it's going to be viewed non-feasible for a school that is much more traditional in perspective like Darden. So if you don't have backed evidence that shows you have done this before, I would strongly suggest you don't write a goal like that. Either way, the pieces where you need to really highlight that you have to communicate these traits is where you have to communicate these traits is honestly like throughout the entire application. Every opportunity, every answer that you're giving Darden, evaluate, is there an opportunity for me to highlight elements of the traits they're looking for in this section, right? So your leadership is naturally going to come through in your resume. We advocate for a story-based resume. And again, you can go to our YouTube and watch how to write an MBA resume. And that allows them to see how you lead different projects, the impact, the influence that you've had so far, right? So they're extrapolating those experiences to learn if you're going to be someone who's going to be successful in the future, because if you've done it before, with more training, you'll definitely be able to do it again. Then you have an opportunity to demonstrate your contributions in the contributions essay. Make sure that you are diving deeper into how are you going to leverage the resources. Well, first and foremost, what is a value that you bring to the table that Darden needs, right? And if you have gone through this application process and you've done it right and you've been following us, because it's something that I talk about all the time, you know you have to have conversations with students, alumni, admission representatives. And please, please, please do not have conversation only with your friends. especially if those friends are not in the areas that you are interested in going into. While they want the best for you, they do not have all the insight and detail and perspective that you need. Speak to individuals who have walked the walk or are walking the walk that you want to be on. So they will be able to give you specific perspectives, specific areas that you can contribute, that you can highlight in your application. Your goals definitely must be feasible. So if I mentioned earlier, well, one, you have a goals essay specifically where you can talk about this. What is it that you want to do that's attainable, feasible? Darden has the capability to give you the resources in order for you to get there. But you have to have the baseline, right? It's 2 years there. It's not a lot of time to get to the next level in your career. So you can definitely accidentally have a goal that's not what Darden will consider attainable. So definitely stress test. Make sure that you talk to enough people about your goals. You can also submit a profile evaluation on our Sia platform to where you talk about your goals, and you'll get a written report from me that talks about, you know, based on what you shared. Make sure you include your resume because it does help me see the full picture of what you're working with before you submit. Excellent. So next week we're talking about UCLA Anderson. So if you or anyone you know is applying to UCLA Anderson, please join us. Register, write your questions down. We'll integrate your questions into the presentation to make sure that we capture responding to the questions that you have. I know a lot of you are still in the process of submitting applications, so I just wanted to wish you all round one applicants good luck with your submissions. And I wish you all interviews at every school you apply to. Until next week, have a wonderful remainder of the week and weekend.